box of dogs.
It's another box of dogs!
You're a comedian, dude. Take it seriously. How are you, sir?
Good. Are you in Australia?
I am, yes. It's early morning here.
So what's the future like?
The future, that's a very good question. I have no idea at this point. What do you think?
The one time it was relevant was Y2K.
Yeah.
That was because you knew the future, because if the computers didn't shut down in Australia, then they weren't going to shut down anyplace else. But other than that, I just haven't found anything advantage to knowing the future from Australia, to be honest with you. So it's the first day of winter, right?
Yeah, it was the first day of winter here a little while ago. We had the equinox quite recently.
Right.
Or the solstice, right? Not the equinox.
Where are you?
I'm in a little town called Mildura. I was in Melbourne, Victoria. But
are you still in Victoria? Are you still in Victoria?
Yeah, I am. I left Melbourne. It got too crazy. It just got too.
It's one of the craziest places on earth during the COVID thing.
Yeah. I'm pretty proud of a lot of my friends, to be honest. They went out and protested and really fought back quite a bit. So I was kind of oddly proud of them for doing that.
That's good.
You
That's
know,
good. Someone's got to stand up to these people. There's something really sinister about Melbourne that I can't figure out, but that's also where they put Pell on trial. So apparently you can bribe the judiciary there fairly easily. Apparently a cardinal sent, what did he send? $1 million or something like that to Melbourne. And that's when they indicted Pell.
Yeah, that whole thing stank a lot. It was a troubling thing, and that was another example of the press picking a side before there were any facts in.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was all over social media and everything. That's one of the things that I'm having real trouble with now, to be honest. The way the narrative is directed, and no one seems to be questioning it.
There's something about British colonies that they are the most docile populations on the face of the earth. I'm thinking of Ireland, Canada, and Australia.
Yeah.
What is it there? Canada is the absolute worst tyranny, the worst dictatorship on the face of the earth right now. Justin Trudeau is running that place like a complete dictator. I can't figure this out. Is there something in the water? Is it? I used to think it was Australia was a penal colony, and they never got over being prisoners. So now they only feel secure when they lock themselves in their cells at night by following COVID regulations or something like that. But Canada was never a penal colony. Of course, Ireland was the feeder colony for Australia. So if you stole Trevelyan's corn, they put you on a prison ship and shipped you off to Botany Bay. So there may be a connection there. Ireland is in a terrible situation right now. I just did a podcast with Gemma O'Doherty yesterday. Absolutely outrageous. The docility of the Irish is absolutely stunning. I can't tell which is worse. Is Ireland worse than Canada? Or is Canada worse than Australia? Do you have an explanation for this?
I have absolutely. All I can put it down to is the resignation of being kicked out of our mother country and treated like scum. And perhaps it's the majesty of the royals. Perhaps it's in our DNA. Perhaps we were bred that way. I don't know what it is.
I don't know. It would be easy if it were only Australia. Then I'd say the penal colony mentality fits. But but maybe Ireland is related to this, although, but Canada, I just don't understand it. I don't understand why. Maybe it's the fact that they were colonies. Maybe these three places never got over the feeling that they were colonies, and they always had to look to someone to tell them what to do.
Mm. The Queen is still on our money for the most part.
Right.
On all the coins anyway. I think that has a rather, that has a power to it.
There is also something about the Irish in America and how they're different than the Germans, for example. I can speak freely here because I'm half Irish and half German, so I can offend both groups with impunity. But there was a big difference between the Irish and the Germans. The Irish were determined to assimilate, and the Germans wanted to be left alone to form their own culture here.
Right.
A big battle took place at Catholic University in Washington during the 19th century. So you had people like Bishop John Ireland of Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul, absolutely hated Germans, hated them with a kind of irrational hatred. There was a theologian at Catholic University by the name of Hensley, and he referred to him as a beer-guzzling Dutchman, to give you some indication of his ethnic animosity. Anyway, the Irish pretty much won because they're better politically connected, and they took over certain cities like Boston. And the Germans were obviously demonized during the 20th century because England went to war with Germany. And so they were forced to assimilate, whether they liked it or not. They changed their name from Schmidt to Smith and stuff like that. But so I'm saying that there was this kind of deferential attitude among the Irish, even when they came over here. It played out differently than it did in colonies like Australia or Canada. But it was there. It was there.
Okay. They assumed a largely a role of authority in a lot of places with the police force.
Right. Chicago, Boston, Chicago. The Chicago Chief O'Neill was a Chicago cop who codified Irish music. It was codified in Chicago, not in Ireland.
Really?
Yeah, it became that's the Bible if you play Irish music, and it was Chief O'Neill who did it, and he was in Chicago when he did it. So I think that was part of there was a time during the time of the penal laws in Ireland when the Irish were not allowed to own musical instruments. By law, you were not allowed to own a musical instrument. So this was just to destroy their culture. So they kept the musical repertoire alive by humming it. They would get together and hum the tunes, even though they couldn't play them on instruments. So this was a ferocious persecution of the Irish, but it's nothing compared to what the Irish are doing to themselves. I don't understand this. We went through this thing. Gemma showed me this article yesterday. You know what drag queen story hour is? You know what that is?
Yes, of course.
Some transvestite dresses up and reads books to children, impressionable children. Anyway, this is drag queen story hour. So guess what this transvestite does? He exposes himself in front of the audience. This is outrageous. No one would do that over here, but it happened in Ireland, and the Ireland just kind of roll over and play dead when stuff like this happens. I don't understand this.
Hang on, understand this. With children there as well.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
I just tweeted it's not tweet, but I posted it on my channel. I posted the link on my, what do I have? A Telegram account and Facebook. I tweeted, yeah. So it's on my media accounts. you can read it yourself. And we talked a little bit about that.
What are your socials, by the way? Let's get that.
The Twitter, Gab, Telegram,
Twitter, Gab, Telegram, Facebook.
Facebook. Yeah.
It's probably all under E. Michael Jones, right?
Brilliant.
Yeah. And then we have about 4 sites we put up videos.
Yeah. Okay. Also, I have videos on BitChute. My videos are also on YouTube, but I don't have a YouTube channel anymore. I got banned.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about that. How do you feel about YouTube these days?
I don't have any feelings whatsoever about YouTube. It was never all that important to me.
Okay.
I don't know what they're doing. All of this, the ferocious attack in the media was about 2019, when the Jews went after everybody they didn't like, and they pretended it was hate speech. They called it hate speech. It was anything Jews didn't like.
Mm.
So that has been succeeded by COVID, and now now everybody's talking about the war in the Ukraine. So there's not a whole lot talking about banning on the internet, and other things have arisen to take up the slack.
Yeah.
So BitChute got bigger. It's inevitable that people will move to other platforms once something like this happens.
Yeah, they grow. I've noticed a few people that are in danger are people who are talking about Ukraine in anything other than the narrative that
Right.
is sending more money to Ukraine.
That's right.
Um,
That's right.
There's a journalist over there called Eva K. Bartlett who's doing great work and really showing, more of the whole picture, and really showing what's going on.
Yes.
She is on
Yes.
YouTube. Yeah, the social media thing, it's crazy. We have a voice, but it is limited.
Yes.
So yeah. I remember there was a lot of outrage around the time that you got banned. I think that caused a lot of backlash against the ADL, not that they particularly would have noticed. But I remember then when PewDiePie was going to make a large donation to,
Yeah, he got a lot of pushback on that.
which was
That was the beginning. They're ruining their reputation. The Jews have now embarked upon a campaign to counter what's going to be the overthrow of the abortion decision, the overthrow of Roe versus Wade. And now they're saying that abortion is a fundamental Jewish value. This is classic example of the cunning of reason, where they're destroying their own position. They don't even know it. They're so blinded by their own power and Jewish privilege. They actually filed a Supreme Court case in Florida. It's a legal case in Florida, demanding that abortion be kept legal because it's a fundamental Jewish value. So I tweeted, abortion is a Jewish sacrament, and got called an anti-Semite for doing that. But then the ADL came on board and supported me.
really?
So it's the only time I've ever agreed with the ADL. We both agree that abortion is a Jewish sacrament.
Wow.
So that's interesting development here.
It's interesting. If you can play those word games back, it can work in your favor.
They are working in my favor.
Yeah.
This is because what they're saying, in effect, is that when the Supreme Court struck down abortion laws, the Jews imposed their religion on the entire United States of America. That's what they are saying now. That's what that means. And that means that if they try and do this on a state level, it's going to fail because you can't impose your religion on someone else. They've made it explicit. It's not going to work.
That's just reminded me of a couple of things. There was an interview with Trump where he said, he was talking about Ilhan Omar and I can't think of her name, but AOC. And he said, he was saying how they're incredible anti-Semites. And he said, 10 years ago, Israel owned the Congress, and he said, as it should be. I couldn't understand how he could think that a foreign nation should own your Congress.
No, I don't either. I don't either. He'll have to explain that to me, because that is basically what wrecked his presidency.
Mm,
He campaigned on a platform of America first, and as soon as he got in office, it was Israel first.
mm.
And then the way Benjamin Netanyahu treated him, you would think he would have learned from experience, but he hasn't. He hasn't. So
go on.
no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say these seem to be about the only people that he kowtowed to so heavily.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder what they've got on him or how they do that. But
it's because he comes from New York, and he got started in the real estate business, and they control that operation in New York. And I think he felt if he got them if they were on his side, he could do whatever he wanted. Well, It didn't work out that way. The two guys who are leading the attack on him now for January 6th are Chuck E. Schumer and Adam Schiff, both Jews from New York.
really?
So that's what you get for being the most pro-Israel president in the history of the United States. Now the Jews are trying to destroy you.
Yeah, that's fascinating. It was an interesting watching that whole thing unfold. How many people were on board with him at the beginning, and the people that have dropped off, and I mean, what there is now is quite horrific. But I don't think Joe's really in charge. Joe Biden is just a front man, just another front man.
No.
But yeah.
No. So are you ready to go to war with China as a proxy of the United States of America?
Yeah, I don't think it will be a long war. I don't think anyone's ready. I think most people here would be afraid to be called a racist or, or any of those buzzwords. But here at the moment, I mean, China already owns so much of the land, and they're buying more. They're using the whole climate change thing as a way of buying up land as well. Installing, buying the land and installing wind turbines and whatnot that will not last. They've got Darwin Harbour for 99 years. They've leased that. They own a large segment of Western Australia. They've got their own airstrips and ports. So it's not going to be a long war. And
they practically have taken over the country already.
Essentially, yeah.
Well, you can always invade the Solomon Islands.
Well, I figure we'll invade Tasmania.
Tasmania. What about Nauru? You can cut off their fried chicken, and that will bring them to their. This is when that happened. We were talking about Nauru as the original shithole country. Do you remember when Trump started talking about shithole countries?
Yeah.
Nauru's the original shithole country. It was one big blob of bird shit in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and then they mined it all. So now there's a hole where the shit used to be. So now what?
What do we grow now?
It's a penal colony, isn't it? Haven't you created your own penal colony there?
Oh yeah, yeah. People, this is we're self-policing now.
Right. These are illegal aliens who want to come into Australia. They end up in Nauru.
Yeah, yeah, and Christmas Island and Easter Island as well. I think they drop a few there. Papua is on its way out. What was the other one? Oh, there's another island around there that the Chinese have come in and taken over as well. And yeah, it's the Solomons, I think.
The Solomons, yeah. The Solomons just signed a pact with China.
Mm,
And this upset the United States, and they told the Australians to invade the Solomon Islands for them. I think.
mm.
Did I get that right? That's what I remember.
Yeah, that was it. There's a lot of tension over Taiwan at the moment as well. Everyone wants their manufacturing abilities to stay out of the hands of China, you know, as much as possible. Have you heard of the new Federation of China, the new Federation State of China?
No, what's that?
Okay, it's it was started by Steve Bannon. I got on Getter a while ago, and I'm getting followed by a lot of Chinese nationals who are members of this, the new Federation of China, and their whole thing is to create pushback against the CCP. They're very anti-communist, and yeah, so there's some news coming out of there.
Are they located on Taiwan?
I think a lot of them are.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of references to Himalayas in there. I don't know exactly why. I don't know how much of it is actually coming from there, but yeah, I'm trying to find out as much as I can about that actually at the moment. I'm hoping to get someone from that organization to come and talk to me. The thing is, I find it interesting when people offer pushback against these things, because it's kind of rare.
Well, is there any pushback in Australia against now the Scott Morrison got voted out of office? Isn't that right?
Yeah, we have the new prime minister.
What does that mean that he got voted out of office?
Essentially nothing. It's the new people will offer a few baubles to the people. They will give a few more things to help out the unemployed and whatnot. It'll become a little bit more liberal. It's funny, the Conservative Party in Australia is called the Liberal Party, and the more liberal party in Australia is called the Labor Party. So it gets a little confusing.
Yeah.
But you know, so some good things will happen on a small level, and bad things will happen. It's but ultimately, it's not going to make any difference. The plan, or whatever it is, will all go ahead. Both parties said that they had basically already agreed to sign the WHO declaration. The
email for future pandemics.
That one.
So you lost more sovereignty there.
Yeah.
You lost complete sovereignty when it comes to your medical establishment.
Yeah, we have no bodily autonomy whatsoever. It's interesting to hear people joining in with the pro-abortion chorus of "My Body, My Choice," just with a different view on it.
Except that's not what they're saying. That's not what WHO is saying. It's their body.
That's not what. No, this is
your body, their choice.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's the people who are resisting.
What about the pushback you said from in Melbourne or Victoria?
It's a very small. This is the thing. It's a very small group of people. We had some pretty successful demonstrations with some good numbers, but it really didn't make a great deal of difference. I wanted to organize a protest at one point, but it kind of came and went, and I was very disappointed. But New South Wales passed a law that said that they were allowed to, if you're demonstrating anywhere, and it's part of the Roads Act, the Roads Safety Act, but if you're demonstrating anywhere, they can come and arrest you, throw you in jail for 2 years, and fine you, I think it's $120,000. Any protest whatsoever. So you can be protesting climate change, you can be protesting koalas, you know, the death of koalas, whatever it is, they can do that. Of course, they're not going to use that law on anyone doing an approved protest or something that
Right.
looks good in the media.
Right.
Yeah, that anytime the anti-vaxxers arc up, it's going to be over. And
That's effectively what happened in Canada
mm,
when the truckers finally arrived in Ottawa. The government went after their bank accounts. And I don't know how it's been resolved. I know that the lady Tamara Litch was arrested, and then she's trying to fight. And then they passed a law outlawing anti-Semitism right on the heels of the COVID thing. No, it's a Holocaust denial. They passed a Holocaust denial law. Now, why do they have to do that in Canada? Why is the Holocaust relevant to Canada? Well, because that's how you demonize people. So it was, I don't know what happened after all of that, because, there's a big confrontation. They send in the stormtroopers, the truckers get arrested, and then you never hear anything after that because the news cycle moves on. I haven't heard anything about that, but it sounds similar. Again, what is it with these colonies, these former English colonies? What is it?
I can't
What is it?
explain it. I honestly cannot explain it. But there is a definite lack of, like, that's what I love about America. On Twitter, I follow a lot of Americans, and they're always railing against this kind of stuff. There is a real movement.
Our national identity, was based on the fact that we rebelled against Britain. That was the forming act of our country, this act of rebellion against the British Empire.
I think,
And it had consequences for a while. Like Andrew Jackson hated the English. He was a soldier. During the War of 1812, a British soldier told him to polish his boots, and when he refused, the soldier hit him with a sword. And he had a scar there on his forehead for the rest of his life. But that ended by the end of the 19th century. And it ended when basically the ruling class in America decided they had more in common with the ruling class in England than they had with fellow Americans from places like Italy or Poland or something like that. It's called the Great Rapprochement. It even has a name for it.
the rapprochement.
The Great Rapprochement. And a lot of it was basically English lords who ran out of money because they were in debt to the Jews because of the big fancy houses they built. So they came to America to find rich wives. That's Winston Churchill's mother, by the way.
Really?
Jenny, yes. Jenny was an American. And Randolph Churchill basically needed a rich wife because he died 60,000 pounds in debt to Natty Rothschild. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, in those days, especially.
So even after he married the rich American wife, he was still in debt to the Rothschilds. And this made a big impression on Winston Churchill, who basically got bailed out by rich Jews every time he got in over his head with debt.
Right. You know what I think it's what I think it is about, because I don't know, we used to be a lot tougher, I think. I seem to remember. And I think it's just the social decay that's been going on. But we have this thing in the Australian identity to always support the underdog. We're obsessed with during World War II, the fight with the Turks, because they were a worthy foe and all this kind of stuff. But we've lost that, I think. There's just such a move towards giving up in Australia now. And
Has anyone written about this?
I imagine someone has. I hope they have. I don't know. That would be an interesting project, actually. Oh, damn. I just got a message saying that this meeting will end in 10 minutes. So
Well, that's okay. That's okay with me. I got to get off. I got another appointment, so let's
okay,
let's go for 10 minutes.
okay, great. I wanted to take you back actually to talk about what happened in Ramallah, March 30th, 2002. That's a fascinating.
Yeah, the Israelis came into Ramallah, took over the TV stations, and started broadcasting pornography.
Mm,
And I said, this proves that pornography is a weapon, a political weapon. And then I went on to explain that in a book called Libido Dominandi. I've given this speech in a lot of different places, in Iran, in Switzerland, in Washington, and in Switzerland and Washington, there were Palestinians in the audience who actually told me that the situation was much worse than I described, that the Israelis had snipers on the top of the hospital. And if you came out of your house, they would shoot you. So you were forced to watch pornography on television. Anyway, it was a good example of how pornography is a form of control.
mm. I've watched that your speech in Warsaw many times. It's very enlightening. I talk to people about this all the time. They don't want to give up the pornography. They're people who like pornography. They will defend it to the death.
Yeah, the crucial thing. I just did an article about marijuana in Michigan, the legalization of marijuana in Michigan. The man who understood this was Aldous Huxley, and the book was Brave New World. And he said basically these soft forms of control are much more effective than the harsh forms of control that you found in the Soviet Union during this period of time. And he was the architect of all of these forms of control masquerading as liberation in the United States that took place over the post-World War II period, especially drugs. But he also mentions something called the feelies, which is his word for pornography in Brave New World.
Right. Okay. I wanted to talk to you briefly about the denial of the existence of evil. So many people I know say they don't believe in evil, and I don't know what to make of that, especially when so many of them have experienced evil firsthand.
Well, you better contextualize it then. Like, what do you mean isn't evil? Like what? It's probably sex. They bought into sexual liberation. And so because they want to do what they want to do, they're going to say there's no such thing as evil or something like that. Generally, it doesn't work that way. Deviance is constant. So if you tolerate homosexuality, then you have to crack down on white supremacy, because deviance is constant. That is simply what has happened in our culture. That's what happened. So the same thing with drugs. The lady who, the lesbian who's the head of the Attorney General in Michigan, now that marijuana is decriminalized, she's still got to enforce some law. So she comes out against the people of Michigan, white supremacists. She collaborated with the FBI with this cockamamie plot that there's some people were going to kidnap the governor. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Usually they just transpose evil to the opposite end of the political spectrum. That's all they do.
Okay. Yeah. There's a very much a slippery thing with definitions of what is evil and whatnot that they play around with. But yeah, that breaks it down really well, actually. How's your music going?
I played Irish music last Saturday night in Chicago. I haven't played it for a while because of what happened to the pub scene here in South Bend, Indiana. After we got a homosexual mayor.
Yeah.
It was kind of ethnic, and then it became political, and at that point I got tired of it and stopped playing.
Yeah.
So the short answer to your question is it's not going very much because I don't feel I have a venue anymore.
I've found that as well, that I have really, I've started again recently playing music, but I've wondered, is that, like, I think that is part of the whole plan. If you take away people's music, it's a whole form of communication that we don't have anymore.
That's what happened with COVID. COVID put the final nail in the coffin for live music here in South Bend, Indiana.
Yeah.
And you inflict that injury, and then it takes a while to recover. But in around the year 2000, there was a real rebirth of ethnic music. Because everybody, first of all, the pop music had become so nihilistic and stupid that nobody wanted to listen to it anymore.
Yeah.
And so they reverted to ethnic music, a huge revival of Irish music across the board here. But it stimulated just a kind of local ethnic music as well. And I would write songs with satirical lyrics. And I actually did it. I actually pulled it off until the mayor, because the homosexual mayor arrived on the scene. I wrote, do you remember Brokeback Mountain?
Yes.
Well, I wrote a song about the gay cowboy dying of AIDS. I actually sang it at the pub.
Really?
Yeah. Come hear my sad story about a cowboy named Rory who expired from sexual practices strange. The gay cowboy Rory got AIDS a posteriori, and now he's no longer at home on the range. I sang that at the pub.
That's brilliant.
And one guy got up and stomped out, and after he slammed the door behind him, I said, must have been a cowboy. That's why he was.
Very
Anyway,
the Cowboys. With the Neocon song is a hit on YouTube. I love that.
yeah, that was at the beginning when George Bush was president. I had a natural alliance with all the left wingers because we were against the war. We were against the war in Iraq.
Yeah.
But that changed as soon as Obama became president. Everybody had to be completely politically correct, and you weren't allowed to satirize anything anymore. And then when the homosexual mayor arrived, it got even worse. So the point is, we just sat there, playing one Irish tune after another. I have nothing against Irish tunes, but it became so mechanical, and there was no talk between the songs. Everybody's afraid to say something. Well,
Right.
this atmosphere got to be oppressive, and so that was it.
That the same thing happened in Melbourne. The music scene died entirely, and it takes away a certain joy. And then even when it comes back, it's slowly coming back now. I think there is when people do get together now, there is kind of a more festive atmosphere happening, but it is still, it was a real wound to do that to people.
It was done deliberately. It was deliberate. COVID was a deliberate attempt to destroy your culture and make you completely isolated and dependent on electronic media as your only form of communication. You weren't allowed to be in the same room with somebody. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So everything's got to go through Google, and they can censor what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, this is outrageous.
In
the
real
people
time.
need to stand up. That's right. People have to stand up.
Well, that's what I'm hoping to do with this channel is as I develop it more, I want to get that out there, get that message out there much more. I want to bring people together to do that, to stand up. Right, we're at less than a minute, so let's just wrap this up.
I have contacts in Sydney that you might be interested. I can send you their information by email.
I would
You
really
might be
appreciate
interested.
that.
I will send you their information. You should make contact with them because we're thinking along the same wavelength. But for your readers, go to culturewars.com. All of the stuff that I've written is all there available. Culture Wars magazine is available. You can get it sent to you electronically, even to Australia, even to, it doesn't have to go around Cape Horn anymore, you know. So, you know, let's keep in touch.
Yeah, let's do. I hope we can do this again. Dr. E. Michael Jones, thank you